Hello guys, it's Misty from Join the Journey, and today we are going to talk about my absolutely favorite history curriculum. If any of you have followed the blog or followed me on Instagram, which if you're not following me on Instagram, you should. It's Find Joy in Journey. I share little bits of our homeschool day there every day. But if you followed me on Instagram, then I am sure that you have seen me talk about Notgrass history, or if you've even followed me here on Facebook. And we have absolutely fallen in love with it. Funny story, so whenever I first heard of Notgrass history, it was a couple of years ago, and I honestly thought, at the time we were using Heart of Dakota, which is another literature-based program, and I didn't really give Notgrass a lot of thought. So fast forward a couple of years, and we were no longer using Heart of Dakota, and we started getting catalogs in the mail. At that time, we wasn't really sure what we were going to do next, so I was open to possibilities. So my oldest daughter, Allison, she found the Notgrass history catalog. I don't even know how they got my address. Maybe it was just a God thing, but she found it and she started looking through it, and she's like, "Mom, this is what I want to do for history." And I'm like, "Allison, I'm not really sure. You guys have always done history together." And she's like, "No, I really, really, really want to do this. Can we just try it, please?" So we gave it a shot because I'm like, here is my daughter, and she was in 4th grade at the time, and she's telling me, or 5th grade at the time, she's telling me that she really, really wants to try this program. And that's every parent's dream, right? To have kids who are fully engaged in school. So we started trying it, and we absolutely love it. I have full plans on using it through high school, and it has really become an awesome, awesome part of our day. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Notgrass. So right now we are using America the Beautiful, and we have already received From Adam to Us for next school year. So those are the two programs that I have. Notgrass actually does have a high school program as well. We do plan on using it in high school, but I'm not familiar with their high school program yet. So I'm not going to address that, but come back in a couple of years and maybe I will have by that point. But today I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to show you a little bit of America the Beautiful, and then I'm going to show you From Adam to Us, and I'm also going to go over questions that you guys might have about Notgrass. So, first of all, this is From Adam to Us, and From Adam to Us takes you through creation, all the way through present day. Well, as present as they could get since this was published a couple of years ago. But anyway, it is very creation-based. It has information in it from ancient world, from other countries, and it really is a full program and takes you, like I said, from the time of creation all the way to present day, at least at time of publishing. And it is very colorful if you look at the illustrations. That is one thing about Notgrass, is it is textbook based. They also offer literature options. I'll talk about that in a bit. But the textbooks are very, very colorful. And they are written in a language that kids understand, but yet it's not dumbed down. And that's one thing I really like about it. They're not over the kids' heads, but yet they are in the format to where, it's kind of discussion based, and kids really, really learn and they pick up on it. And it's, like I said, it's written at a level where kids can understand it. So here is America the Beautiful. We don't have the first book with us right now. A friend borrowed it. She's wanting to look at it and see if they might be using it next year. America the Beautiful takes you through America's history. One thing that I also really like about America the Beautiful, here's some pictures, is it also talks about geographic landmarks. So it gives you the history of America, but it also introduces you to parts of America that maybe you've never seen. For example, this one is Olympic Peninsula. So I had never heard of Olympic Peninsula before. My daughter had never heard of Olympic Peninsula before. And in most history books, you wouldn't have heard of Olympic Peninsula. But in America the Beautiful, you do. So it talks about that and shows pictures of the area. And that is something that we've really, really enjoyed because we have been introduced to a lot of places that I had never even heard of and places that is now on our bucket list to someday visit. And I could thank Notgrass History for that. So with Notgrass History, they also include literature books. Notgrass History is textbook based. However, in my personal opinion, it is also the best of both worlds. We really, really like the literature-based approach, but at the same time, I just haven't been able to fully dive into that philosophy of education. So I'm just a textbook person. It's the teacher in me. But anyway, so the textbooks go along with literature. They include real books. My daughter has read All of a Kind Family this year. She has read, there's been a few others. I can't think of them now off the top of my head. Little House on the Prairie series was one of them. She's read Across 5 Aprils, Bound for Oregon, and those are books that kind of introduce them to the time period that they are learning about, but yet also gets them into real books. My daughters are readers, so they really enjoy reading, but these are books that honestly we probably would have never checked out from the library had it not been for Notgrass History. So to me, it's kind of the best of both worlds. But let's say you don't want to do the literature packet. Let's say, well, my kids aren't really into books. I don't think I can get them to read that many books. Here comes the literature guide that they also offer. So this book, it is assigned in the program, but it is like little snippets of stories about real people that they are learning about in real time periods in their textbook. So even if your child is not one to just pick up a book and read, they still get literature and they still get stories thanks to this. And the lessons are really, really short. They're not long. So even if you have a child who maybe isn't a huge reader, I still think they would be able to handle this because it's not a lot. And if they don't, then you could also read to them. So that is that. So a few questions that people have asked me about Notgrass, and I'm going to address these as well in a blog post, but I wanted to talk to you. So one thing is a lot of people, Notgrass is based for ages 5th through 8th. 5th through 8th, yes. So people have asked me, well, can I throw my 3rd grader in with my 5th grader, or what about my 4th grader? Can they handle the lessons in Notgrass? And I think this is one of those questions where every parent just needs to evaluate their own child and their own family. I truly feel that Notgrass is a solid 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade program. My kids at this time are 6th, 4th, and kindergarten. Now my 4th grader probably could have handled Notgrass this year with her sister. She's advanced. And she does really, really well in school. She's a good, solid reader, and she probably could have done this with her, but she didn't want to. She wanted to do something else this year, but she will be joining her next year with From Adam to Us. So can a 4th grader do it? Most 4th graders probably could tag along with their older siblings. My personal opinion, if they're younger than 4th grade, I probably would find another literature-based program out there, and maybe one day Notgrass will create one for elementary grades. But my own personal opinion, I would not use Notgrass with a 3rd grader. I just feel that by doing that, then they are going to miss out whenever it comes time for them to use it. Plus, a lot of the program, it's a lot of reading. For a 3rd grader, older kids can absolutely do it. Like I said, it was written for middle grades in mind. That being said, I know a lot of people in the Notgrass Facebook group would disagree with me on that, and that's fine. They've used it with younger kids, and it seems to work out great. So can you do it? You can. My own personal opinion, I wouldn't. So that's my thoughts on can you use Notgrass History with a child younger than 5th grade. Next question, how can you use Notgrass History with multi-ages? So let's say you have a 5th grader or even a 4th grader and 6th grader or 5th and 7th grader. Here's how I plan on doing that next year. I could do it one of two ways. I could read the lesson to the girls each day, and we could go through the workbooks together. That would be a nice approach. That's not what I'm doing though, but it is an option. My plan is to let the girls read the textbook either at different times or at same times, and then work in their own workbooks whenever they're done. So if you have 2 children using Notgrass history, you really only need to buy an extra map. Your kids should be able to use the same timeline. They should be able to use the same textbook or literature books. Workbooks, depending on their ages, I'll get into that in a minute, you may need to buy a second workbook. Maps, my kids plan on doing their own maps. If you have children who seem to be fine working together and would want to share a map, then they can, and I'll show you these here in just a little bit. But I plan on buying a separate map for my children and then letting them do the timeline together. So again, I'll show you that. So if you wanted to buy all extra consumables for each child and not share, then you would need to buy a second workbook, maybe depending on their grades, a separate map book, and a separate timeline book. But you would not need an extra textbook or literature book. The kids could absolutely share it. They're not going to miss out on anything by sharing a book. And with the consumables, again, that's also kind of really up to you on how you want to do that. But those are the extra consumables that you may need to purchase if you want to use it with more than one child. So now I want to show you the 2 workbooks. So with Notgrass, they offer 2 levels for their workbooks. They offer a lesson review, and then they offer a student workbook. So here is the student workbook. This is from America the Beautiful. This is geared for probably 5th and 6th graders. Inside the book, you can see they're like workbook pages, but they're not all boring and dry workbooks. There's crossword puzzles, there's fill in the blanks. This is an extra one that I have for when Kristen does get to it, so it's not been used. The workbooks also do include tests for the end of each unit if you wanted to do those. And the tests are really, really short. They're normally about 10 questions, sometimes 7, sometimes 8, never more than 10. So they're really simple, they're to the point, and they're taken from the text. I'll show you another picture of the workbook. And again, like I said, these are kind of geared towards ages 5th and 6th grade. And hold on a minute, I have a visitor. Yes, Mr. Daniel?
Can I give you postcards?
Yes, you may.
Yes.
So that is the student workbook. And so if you have 2 children that are in 5th and 6th grade, then you would need 2 of these. If you have a 5th grader and a 7th grader, then you probably won't have to get a second workbook because your older child will be using this. This is the lesson review book. These books are geared more towards 7th and 8th grade, and you can see that they require longer answers, so there's more writing involved. They also include comprehension questions for the literature books. If you did the literature add-ons, then they include that as well. Here's a few questions that you see where it asks about the literature reading for the day. So this is geared, and there's also tests in the back of this too, and the tests are about the same length as the tests in the workbook. They're about 10 questions, but they do require longer answers, and there's some multiple choice, but not really a lot. So, and again, this is geared more towards the 7th and 8th grade. So that is kind of how you can use Notgrass history with older kids, or with multi-level kids. Daniel, they're in the kitchen, please. Sorry, I do homeschool, so I do have kids, and sometimes they do pop in on videos. So, and he's 5, and he doesn't really know that that's what I'm doing right now. So also they have map books. So this is from Adam to Us, and you can kind of see. So what they do with the map books is there are questions here from each lesson, and it kind of tells you what to write on the map. So they might color the map, might color different areas of the map. For example, in this one, it says to draw an X on the island of Jamaica where Columbus may have been stranded, or shade the area of the Lesser Antilles with green. You can see that right there. So that is the map, and my kids would both want their own map. So I plan on buying 2 map books. If you think your kids wouldn't both want to do the maps, then you can only buy one of those. There's also a timeline book with Notgrass history, and this is it right here. And the timeline, it just has them write in dates from throughout the time that they're using Notgrass. That's really all they write. They write dates, and then they write, you know, maybe a sentence about what they're supposed to, what happened during that time period. So timeline books, like I said, you probably wouldn't need 2 of these if they wanted to share them, but you can buy a second one if you do have more than one child using Notgrass History. They're really inexpensive. I'm thinking they're around $10. I think all the consumables are around $10, so they're not crazy expensive if you want a second one for an additional child. Whether or not it's necessary is really going to be up to you. So those are some questions that I've had about Notgrass. And some things I wanted to show you. There's 2 more questions that I want to answer. The first one is Notgrass fully independent? And in my personal opinion, this year with a 6th grader, it absolutely is. At the end of each lesson, there are some activities that you can see. I'm not sure if you can see that or not. The activities can include everything from maps, vocabulary, timelines, creative writing, literature. There's tons of options. Here's the thing though, you might hear that and you might think, oh my gosh, that is a lot. You don't have to do it all. So for my 6th grader, every day we do the notebook planning method where I just write in a notebook what I want them to do each day. So I will write history, and next to it I will write what of the 5 or 6 activities I want her to do. And they're normally map, timeline, literature, and the workbook. I normally have her do the workbook. So those are the 4 things I might have her do every day. You can do all of them if you want, or you can just pick 1 or 2. You don't have to do them all. So she is able to complete all of the lessons in Notgrass History completely independently. The only thing I do is that, like I said, I write out what I want her to do, and at the end of the day, I check off the work and see if she's done it. So she is able to do it completely independently. Time frame, Notgrass recommends 60 to 90 minutes a day for their history. It might be 45. I have found that it takes her right at an hour to do everything I want her to do with Notgrass. Sometimes it's a little less. It's never more. But that is with me having her do, like I said, the literature, the map, the timeline, and the workbook. And some days I have her do Bible if Bible's assigned that day. Like I said, it takes her right about an hour. So it's not bad. It's a perfect level for a 6th grader, I think, and it gets her on track for independent work into high school. So that is one of the questions that I had. And another one is about the family projects. So at the end of each unit with Notgrass, there is a family project that you can do with your child. Most of these do require parental assistance. Can they be done independently? Maybe, depending on your child. I know this year I have done all of the family activities with Allison, and we've actually all as a family been able to do them together. So some of them have included making Navajo bread. We have done colonial marbles. We had a big plantation dinner, and I have shared some of these on Instagram, and I'm planning on also doing a blog post about some of our favorite projects from America the Beautiful, and they have all been a lot of fun. Now they do require, most of them require items that are not normal household items. So I wanted to kind of address that because 1, people had asked me if they were necessary, and 2, if they were able to do those independently. So the projects are not 100% necessary. You're not going to miss out on anything by not doing some of the family projects. We have kind of picked and chose what we wanted to do, but I do recommend doing some throughout the year because they really do add a huge amount of fun to the history lessons with Notgrass. And they have all been something that have been enjoyable, and we have really enjoyed doing them with her and kind of getting a peek into what she has been learning about with history. So how much do the items cost if they're not normal household items? Out of the ones we have done so far, the most expensive one was probably the marbles because we had to buy bakeable clay. It still wasn't crazy. I'm wanting to say we spent around $10. There have been a couple that we have not done that I think would have cost more. For example, the Boston Tea Party crate. They required like some pieces of wood, and we couldn't find them at our local craft store, so we would have had to order them, and that one would have maybe cost us around $20. We ended up opting not to do it because we couldn't find the supplies nearby. We live in a very rural area. Chances are where you live, you would not have a problem, but that's something that if I would have planned ahead, I could have had a little bit more time to get the materials that we needed. So it's not crazy. They're not insanely expensive, and you can do one a week. Really, we normally pick 1 or 2 a month to do, so we don't do one with every unit. But like I said, they do add a lot of hands-on learning to history, which it makes history more enjoyable for our kids, which we all want, right? So I think off the top of my head, that was it. That was all of the questions that I had received about Notgrass history. If you are considering Notgrass history and have additional questions, please comment below. I will answer them. Or you can go to my blog, findingjoyinthejourney.net, and there's a contact button at the top if you don't want to make the comment public, and that sends you an email directly to me, and I will respond because I'm actually passionate about Notgrass history. We have really, really enjoyed it, and if you are looking for a literature-based program that is maybe not overwhelming to you, and that maybe includes a little bit of textbooks, then Notgrass is exactly what you need. It is Christian based, and I've actually met the writers of the curriculum. I've met Charlene at a couple blogging events and conventions, and she is absolutely wonderful and is a joy to be around. You can tell she's passionate about this program, and she created it after homeschooling her own kids, and she truly has a heart for homeschool moms. She also has a email sign up that's where she sends devotions every day to homeschool moms. I'll leave that in the comments, the link to sign up for that. Because Notgrass, it is truly, truly a homeschool family's dream. I really, really believe that, and I'm not getting paid to do this video. I'm just truly passionate about Notgrass history. So that is it. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, or shoot me an email from my blog, findingjoyinthejourney.net. I would love to hear from you, and I would love to answer any questions that you may have about Notgrass history. So have a great day, guys. Bye.